Hello, welcome to the University of Law. In this video I am unboxing and reviewing Doctor Who Sontarans vs Rutans Born to Die. So I really enjoyed this one. This is the third in the series of four, so there's one more left to go. I've been really impressed with it, I've been really enjoying the range. And on the Big Finish podcast recently they mentioned about, because I said about how they're doing more of these series like this where you have to tune in monthly, and obviously we've got the big epic Dark Gallifrey coming up. So that's really exciting. We've had this, obviously last year we had Once and Future, so they're doing a lot more of it. And I've always said, it's great to be able to just have to follow a story over several weeks. I know people are quite used to binging television now when it comes out on a streaming service, but actually to be able to follow a story like we still do with Doctor Who, it's still a weekly thing when it's on television, and it's nice to have that experience. And also it does mean it's in affordable bite-sized chunks for people as well, which is fantastic. And you buy the ones that interest you, perhaps, as well. Obviously, all of them have had a different, other than it being Sontarans and Rutans, they've all had a different appeal to them. Obviously, we've had TARDIS teams that maybe we haven't seen much of. Obviously, Third Doctor and Sarah Jane, we maybe see a bit more frequently at the moment with the Third Doctor range. But the first story, we hadn't seen Carys in a long time. And then this pairing, the Sixth Doctor in his blue coat with Charlie. This is a bit of a double celebration, really. Not only are we bringing back this pairing, but also we're celebrating in March this month the 40th anniversary of the Sixth Doctor. So this is the first of 3 releases coming out over the course of 2 weeks to commemorate the big 40th anniversary of this incredible Doctor, as well as obviously the 50th anniversary of the Sontarans. So yeah, I'll unbox it and I'll kind of go through my thoughts on the story. Okay, here we go. So, Sontarans vs Rutans, Born to Die by Tegan Byrne. So let's have a little look at the artwork. So we've got Sixth Doctor in his blue jacket there. Obviously made famous by the webcast Real Time, and obviously many of the audio dramas where he travelled with Evelyn Smythe, which sort of canonically are taking place really just before the Charlie stories begin. It was Evelyn, then the Wrong Doctors, and then he goes into his Charlie adventures. So this is still taking place in that period where he's still using the blue jacket, which we don't really see much anymore. But I believe we'll see in the Quinn Dilemma next week as well. So obviously Charlie Pollard's back. It's the great thing about this arc, if you're not familiar with the arc, the Charlie and the Sixth Doctor, the Charlie Pollard obviously travelled with the Eighth Doctor first, and then she got stranded in the future, called for the Doctor's help. When the Doctor arrived, it was a previous incarnation. Now, for the Web of Time, Charlie did cause a few issues to the Web of Time in her travels with the Eighth Doctor, so she knows how precious and delicate it is. She knows that she can't tell the Sixth Doctor who she is because it's in his future. So essentially she has to keep her knowledge of his future quiet, and has to pretend she doesn't know who the Daleks are and the Crotons, and in this case who the Sontarans are. I believe this story takes place relatively early on. There was the original trilogy of her first 3 stories, which was The Condemned, The Doomwood Curse, and Brotherhood of the Daleks. That was the initial trilogy. And then the Sixth Doctor Last Adventure, her appearance in that, which was the last time they did a story together, was set just after that initial trilogy, and then it was Return of the Crotons, and then it went into a really exciting set of kind of 4 or 5 stories that had all sorts of twists and turns around Charlie and the Daleks, and introduced the Dalek time strategist. There was all sorts of stuff going on, and the Virons. There was all sorts going on, and it was a really great arc, really fun arc, wrapped up nicely, setting up the future stories with the Eighth Doctor. The Sixth Doctor, spoiler alert, doesn't remember these adventures anymore, which is a shame, because there was a great one where he met Captain Jack, and it's implied that when the Ninth Doctor meets Captain Jack, he does remember him from his 6th incarnation, but he knows to pretend not to know him. So that would have been quite a fun thing if the Eighth Doctor had known. You could have listened to those audios in a different way, I guess. But anyway, the arc worked really well. It's a really good arc, and it's what I'm going to be recommending in an upcoming video about the Sixth Doctor, where I'd recommend you begin. So I think that I'm guessing this is set after that first arc, that first trilogy, before the arc itself really takes off. So you can also see on here we've got Sontarans Obviously, Dan Starkey plays most Sontarans now on television, and of course on audio. But we've got Chris Ryan returning, who played the Sontarans on screen with David Tennant and has since returned for a couple of audio dramas. Well, he's back. And we've got John Coleshaw now playing the Sontarans, doing a wonderful tribute to Kevin Lindsay, the very first Sontaran, back in 1973-74. So, bringing it full circle. This is celebrating their history. I've said it before, each episode so far has gotten stronger and stronger for me, and this one really did. Really was my favourite so far. It was a really creative world. The whole kind of setting really felt alive to me. It has links to the Third Doctor story as well. We're starting to see a story emerge as well. I thought the Rutans were well used. I thought the Sontarans were well used. And yeah, it used the Rutan concept in a really interesting way. The Rutans obviously can shapeshift. Well, they've taken on the Sontaran form. But what was interesting was how, by becoming physically Sontaran, they actually became more Sontaran in personality without realising it in very, very subtle ways, which was really clever. And then likewise, some of the Sontarans aren't so Sontaran-like in this story. So we're beginning to see maybe a kind of ending to the war when it comes to the Time War, I'm not sure. But what was really fun, because actually I'm not sure they've ever mentioned the Rutans in the post-2005 series, although actually they were against the Rutans in the adventure game with the 11th Doctor, so I guess the war still carries on past the Time War. But yeah, what was really fun about it was we're learning something about what it is to be a Sontaran and a Rutan by doing a story about both of them and a series about both of them. So we're starting to really unpick these characters of Rutans and Sontarans, which is, it's a great thing to be able to do at this anniversary point, to really dive into what makes a Sontaran a Sontaran, what makes a Rutan. And of course, to add to that celebration, we've got coming out on I'm recording this on Friday. By Monday, I should have the collection season 15. Which obviously is going to have new CGI for the Rutans. So that'll be interesting to see that in a new light, having been listening to these stories. It's really come at the right time. All these releases have really come together in a really fulfilling way. But yeah, so it's just an interesting thing to do, is for the writer to take this time to not just celebrate the characters, but explore them, define them, and through the defining of them, maybe even move them forward. So I'm interested to see where it goes in the next installment with the War Doctor. So obviously we've got the little blurb on the back. There we are. On the planet Taxodon. And then, if I open it up, actually I'll show you the spine if I can. So we've got Doctor Who Born to Die. It's release 1.3, series 1, episode 3. I'm guessing there's not going to be a second series. And on the other side, I never noticed this before, it just says Sontarans versus Rutans 1.3. I've noticed in the extras they do talk about the box set, and I wonder if it was originally planned as a box set. And they did release artwork for the range as a whole, didn't they? Which was quite stunning. And they've since all had their rental. I wonder if it was originally conceived as a box set, and if quite close to release it got changed maybe. That'd be interesting to see if we ever find out about that. So here's the disc itself. Got the lovely. It's been the whole way through. The cover art has been amazing the whole way through. Actually, as I said, the announcement artwork blew me away, and then to have these individual covers as well. And as I say, they've really taken different aspects of Big Finish, like Sixth Doctor in the blue coat, has been done perfectly. It's probably one of the clearest, sharpest images of the Sixth Doctor in this suit we've ever had, because the last time we kind of saw it was about 20 years ago. So that's been wonderful. And then the artwork at the start was beginning. This is excellent. The last two, and the War Doctor one is my favourite one by far. I'll be reviewing that hopefully in a few weeks. And actually, we haven't had long to wait between releases really. I've been looking at my review schedule, and it's already been 2 weeks between each CD arriving actually. So I'm assuming the first release was late January, the second release was kind of mid-Feb, and this was early March really. So we've had them quite quick, these releases, so it doesn't feel like we've had to wait that long between installments. So yeah, I've been enjoying the story. It doesn't, it's nice to have that gap, that time to process and think about it, think about the story and where it's going and these characters, and maybe even engage in a couple of Centauran or Rutan stories on DVD or Blu-ray in the meantime, to kind of catch up and broaden and deepen that immersion in the story. But at the same time, while we've had that pause and that breather to think and discuss, it doesn't feel like we've had to wait ages, and to a point where sometimes if it's too long between releases, you kind of forget what's been happening. I remember with some of the Eighth Doctor box sets back in the day with kind of like Doom Coalition, I'd have to re-listen to the last couple of sets before I listened to the next one, just to kind of remind me where I was, because it'd been, not that they weren't memorable, but because it'd been so long, the little nuances. Whereas with this, it's been so soon since the last one, in a good way, that I'm making connections without the necessarily having to re-listen immediately. So yeah, this is in advertising the recent saga from the Sixth Doctor, which again I'll be recommending in my upcoming Sixth Doctor recommendation video for Big Finish. And finally we've got the booklet. So this is the reversible cover. It has got the Sixth Doctor logo on, and inside we have got obviously the cast list. We've got production there. Interestingly, because of the nature of the release, it's mainly Centaurans, isn't it? So it's quite a small cast, but it feels like an army, because the small cast are playing an army. And here it is. We've got obviously India Fisher as Charlie, and then our three Centaurans. We've got obviously Chris Ryan, we've got John Coleshaw, we've got Dan Starkey holding what looks like a tin of biscuits. Jeremy Dodger in there, maybe evoking the 11th Doctor. So there we go. Did you pick up this release? Have you listened to it? What are your thoughts on Centaurans vs. Rutans, Episode 3, Born to Die? What are you looking forward to about the next release? Do you have any predictions? Do let me know in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I look forward to speaking to you soon.